Coming up today, following last-minute negotiations, Korea's rival parties agree to pass a $333 billion budget bill for next year. Addressing the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, President Park Geun-hye underscores the importance of global citizenship education as a fundamental solution to extremism. Plus, in its annual management reshuffle, Samsung replaces the executive overseeing its mobile sector business as the company tries to reinvigorate its flagging smartphone sales. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, December 2nd here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this morning, Korea's rival political parties have agreed to hold a parliamentary plenary session on this Wednesday to pass a revised budget bill for next year. The deal came after overnight negotiations between the floor leaders of the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy. At the end of the 4-hour meeting, the two sides agreed to put the $333 billion budget bill to a vote today, which is the deadline set by the Constitution. The rival parties also agreed to pass 5 key bills, including the Tourism Promotion Act, backed by the ruling party, and a fair trade bill backed by the NPAD. However, the two sides failed to reach a compromise on the labour reform bill that was at the centre of debate for the majority of the negotiations. Instead, they agreed to continue deliberating the bill with the aim of passing it at the next extraordinary session. President Park Geun-hye is roughly halfway through her 7-day tour of Europe, and on Tuesday she spent her last day in Paris. Before making the short flight to the Czech Republic, the South Korean leader visited the UNESCO headquarters in the French capital. Our presidential office correspondent Hwang Sang-hee has this report.
Addressing some 500 prominent figures Tuesday, President Park called for stronger ties between UNESCO and Korea. Noting the UN agency's contributions in the development and prosperity of Seoul, President Park said as partners, they must now work on securing world peace through increased cooperation. For one, the Korean leader referred to the deadly terror attacks in Paris and underscored the importance of education as a fundamental solution to such extremism. President Park also called for joint efforts to counter regional threats, particularly those stemming from North Korea's nuclear ambitions. She said the issue should be resolved through a peaceful reunification of the Korean peninsula, adding that cultural exchanges will be key for restoring unity between South and North Koreans. President Park also laid out specific proposals for cooperation in education, science, and cultural sectors. Part of the plan includes working with UNESCO on the so-called Better Life for Girls initiative. At the UN General Assembly in September, President Park had pledged to donate $200 million over the next 5 years to support girls in developing nations. President Park has now arrived in Prague, the last stop on her 7-day tour. Here she will hold a summit with the Visegrad Group, which is comprised of the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, and Hungary. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News, Prague.
Now, President Park Geun-hye also used her speech at the UNESCO headquarters to emphasize Korea's role in setting up a secretariat for Memory of the World Register that would provide a fair and objective system for the world record. During the speech, President Park laid out her plan to expand Korea's level of contribution for the development of the world record system that will be objective and democratic. The Korean government plans to sign an MOU with the UNESCO to set up a secretariat in Gwangju, the southwestern city in Korea, for the Memory of the World Register's Asia-Pacific Committee on December 9th, a week on this Wednesday. Now, some analysts say the president's emphasis on the objective and democratic process is to keep in check with Japan as Korea presses to apply for UNESCO designation for documents related to Korean women who were forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military before and during World War II. U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter has been outlining Washington's plan to defeat the Islamic State group by deploying special forces to Iraq and Syria. Speaking at the U.S. House Armed Services Committee in Washington on Tuesday, Carter said a new so-called targeting force would be sent to help Iraqi and Kurdish Peshmerga forces in Iraq. He also said a team of, quote, special operators have been cleared to take part in raids inside Syria, including hostage rescue, intelligence gathering, and missions to capture ISIS leaders. As you can see there, Washington's top military officer was also giving testimony before the committee. Marine General Joseph Dunford, who is chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the US had not contained ISIS. His comments contradict remarks made by President Obama last month, when he said the US had contained the extremist group. Now, Korea's biggest conglomerate, Samsung Group, has carried out its annual end-of-the-year reshuffle, and one of the highest-profile casualties was J.K. Shin, head of Samsung's mobile communications unit. He will see his former deputy step into his shoes. The group said it wants to breathe fresh life back into its struggling smartphone business. Kim Min-ji reports.
There were no major changes this time around, but it's clear Samsung Group's latest shakeup took into account its flagging mobile division. Ko Dong-jin, who was in charge of mobile research and development, was promoted to head Samsung Electronics' mobile communications business. He played a key role in the development of the flagship Galaxy model handsets, and his hardware and software experience is expected to strengthen the company's smartphone business, which has seen its profit drop amid increased competition from foreign rivals. Samsung also announced a personal reshuffle for other affiliates, appointing 15 executives to new posts. Samsung says the promotions were given to people who spearheaded key developments, as well as those who will foster growth and bring about changes to the company. As for the owner family, Lee Se-hyun, the youngest daughter of Samsung chairman Lee Geun-hye, was appointed president of Samsung C&T's fashion division. The list did not include heir apparent Lee Jae-yong, who's been acting as the head of the group after his father was hospitalized after suffering a heart attack in May of last year.
The top executives at Samsung's corporate strategy office stayed in place. This could indicate that the group's succession plan is not complete. But once that's done, there will probably be a major reshuffle that may include his promotion.
Industry watchers say for now, it seems a reshuffle led by Lee Jae-yong was focused on stabilizing the company amid his father's prolonged vacancy. Samsung is expected to announce a personal reshuffle for non-executive employees next week. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, as far as years go, 2015 has definitely been a year to forget for Korea's exporters. Outbound shipments have fallen every single month, but figures for November fell less than expected, offering a slight glimmer of hope. But for more on whether this bump is enough to get the economy back on track before the year is out, Kwon-swa reports.
Outbound shipments dropped by 4.7% in November compared to last year, marking the 11th consecutive month of decline. However, there were some signs of recovery. According to Korea's Trade Ministry Tuesday, the shipping industry picked up significantly from October, when the country posted a 16% drop. The telecommunications and display sectors also continued their upward streak. But overall, most exports were hit by low global oil prices. While total exports amounted to $44.4 billion in November, imports came to $34 billion, plunging 17.6% on year for a record-high trade surplus.
It's difficult to translate the surplus as positive since it's a result of worsening imports and already sluggish exports.
Korea isn't the only one that's been suffering from weak trade. Some experts even say it's actually better off than many other countries. According to the World Trade Organization, global trade has dropped by more than 10% this year. But in the midst of the downward trend, Korea is expected to jump up a spot to become the world's 6th biggest exporter for the first time ever, after being in 7th since 2010.
In terms of quality, Korea's export market actually saw some improvement as it diversified its export items, like in the display, cosmetics, and processed food sectors.
That's why experts believe while it won't reach it this year, next year Korea could make its annual trade target of $1 trillion. Kwon-soa, Arirang News.
Now to some concerning but perhaps not that surprising news that the majority of new retail businesses in Seoul have gone to the wall over the past 10 years. Seoul City data on businesses licensed from 2004 shows only 1 in 5, such as restaurants and convenience stores, managed to avoid going bust. Stores located in commercial districts had a slightly better chance of staying open at 21% compared to 18% of businesses located in alleyways and other secluded areas. Franchises, as you'd imagine, generally stayed open longer than mom and pop stores and had a 15% higher chance of remaining in business within the first 3 years of opening. Now, it's been mired in controversy for years and years, but the South Korean Navy is finally close to opening a strategic naval base on Korea's southernmost Jeju island. The Navy says the base will shore up the country's maritime defense, particularly against the threats posed by North Korea. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The South Korean Navy is putting the final touches on a new naval base on the southern tips of its southern resort island of Jeju. The base, which will station an estimated 3,100 naval personnel, covers nearly 500,000 square meters, and its docks extend 5 kilometers into the East China Sea. The base has been the source of intense controversy since it was announced more than 20 years ago, with local residents expressing deep opposition due to its impact on the environment.
We are 94% done in terms of harbor and land construction, so we are scheduled to be complete by the end of the year. We've done our best to construct the highest-tier civilian military port.
Dozens of warships of all shapes and sizes have successfully docked at the port in test runs. Officials say it proves the port is reliable.
We've held numerous mooring tests and checked all the safety precautions. Everything went smoothly, so we concluded the base meets all the necessary guidelines.
Navy officials say the base has the capacity to hold up to 20 combat ships at a time. As a result, it will enhance the South Korean Navy's capabilities to counter North Korean provocations in the East and the West Sea. The new port also means warships can now reach the country's border islands in the West Sea, including Yeongpyeong-do, in 15 hours. That's a cut in travel time by more than 6 hours, as currently it takes roughly 21 hours from Korea's southeastern port in Busan to the northwestern border islands. The new port is also seen as a naval choke point, from where North Korea would need to pass to sail further out to sea. A Navy official said the base will allow South Korean warships to intercept any North Korean ships attempting to transport weapons of mass destruction to other parts of the world. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now shifting gears quite a bit, Korea is famous for actively exporting its cultural contents overseas, from K-pop to TV dramas. Now, one of the country's art movements is gaining traction, especially with collectors from around the world. And it's also why auction house Christies is highlighting Korean art at a special event in Hong Kong. Our Kim Jeon has more.
The art world is buzzing over Korean monochromatic paintings known as 단색화. An indication of this is an event highlighting the art form that opened last Friday at Christie's Hong Kong. The global auction house has already sold 80% of the 35 Korean pieces there, valued at a combined $34.3 million. Christie says that after 11 years of promoting and curating Korean art, international collectors are now understanding how to appreciate the materials, colors, and spirituality that's part of this contemporary art movement. One of the most expensive pieces was by late Korean painter Kim Won-gi, which sold for $7 million. Kim Won-gi started presenting his pieces since the late 1930s, incorporating Korean modernism and nature into his paintings. Eric Chang, Christie's deputy chairman for Asia, says Kim's work has wide appeal among collectors because of its unique textures and colors.
So with small size, you can see very far distance, but you sense of the colors. It looks like in between the shadow and lighting. So the Korean art, in some way, they describe the pure like blue color. It's similar like impressionist.
While Korean art is just beginning to make waves on the international auction market, Chang believes demand will grow, especially as Korea's brand value rises overseas with the popularity of Korean music and food products. Christies' Asian Contemporary Art event is taking place at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center and runs through Wednesday. Kim Jeon, Arirang News, Hong Kong.
Well, that's all we have for you for now on this Wednesday morning here in Seoul. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to our newscasts, and we'll be back throughout the day with many more newscasts. Goodbye.